After watching this video, you will know what exercises you should do to get in shape. In this video, I will go over 3 things. The first one, I will make a few assumptions about you just to make sure that we are on the same page, and then I will go over the exercises checklist that if an exercise does not follow, you should not do it basically, and I will explain to you each one of the boxes in it in a way that you will actually understand and comprehend and won't just say to me, oh really, what the fuck are you talking about? You're just talking shit. And afterwards, I will go over the exercises, the major exercises, kind of movement patterns that you should do. I won't give you specific exercises that I really like, I'll just tell you what to do. And now let's go over the assumptions. The first one is that you're not injured, and if you're injured in any area of your body, right, don't take my suggestion for it. And this is not a medical advice, just a disclaimer. This video is not a medical advice. And then there is the second thing, it is that your goal is hypertrophy and not stability, endurance, right? None of these goals. Your goal is to build more muscle or to get stronger. If it is not your goal, then you should not really watch this video, because this video is about hypertrophy. Let's go over the exercise checklist. Its first box is that there are no other limiting factors outside of strength when you perform this exercise. Think about it like this. You need to write an essay, but you don't have a pen. This is a massive limiting factor if you're not really right on the paper that you need to write the essay on, right? You will not be able to do it effectively, and you might go and search for a pen and do it and not find one. You will not really write an essay. In a similar way, having limiting factors that are not strength when you perform an exercise, is very similar, because let's say you try to grow your arms. If your cardio is a limiting factor, a big one, it does not allow you to push yourself to your limits, you will not be able to really build a lot of muscle long term. You might build some muscle for sure, but it won't be optimal. It is like having a shitty pen, right? A pen that does not have a lot of ink in it. An example for it can be a Bosu ball squat, right? If you want to grow your legs and you do a squat to perform it on a Bosu ball, a massive limiting factor for you will be stability. You won't be able to stabilize yourself with the same weight as if you were to do it on just a normal floor, and because of this you will be weaker, you will build less muscle. This will be a limiting factor. Another one can be in pull-ups. If you are pretty fat or your grip is weak, you won't really be able to push yourself a lot strength-wise and arm strength-wise to your limit, and because of that your muscle gain from this exercise will be impaired. It is a better idea if you have a very weak grip to either use straps or to go and do a different exercise. And then there is a second thing, and it is comfortability. If you don't feel comfortable while performing an exercise, and because of that you have a hard time progressing in it or trying close to failure in it, you should not really do it, because this exercise is not good. An example for such an exercise can be performing a bench press, right, but in a weird variation, which after performing the full eccentric movement, you just in the concentric movement just go like this, right? You put a lot of emphasis on the shoulder, you will probably feel very uncomfortable, you won't be able to get stronger, and you might get injured too. The two risks for performing such an exercise, the first one is that there is a higher injury risk if you feel uncomfortable in an exercise, not just muscle pain wise, but genuine pain and like the bad kind of uncomfortable. It might signal that you are more injury prone in this exercise, and you might get injured because of doing it over a long period of time. The second one is that it is just harder to overload. When you feel very awkward and it doesn't feel good to perform an exercise and you perform it, it's harder to push yourself to your limits in it, and because of that it will be harder for you to apply the progressive overload principle to it. And then there is the third one, and it is the progressive overload principle. This is one of the most fundamental principles of building muscle. It looks like this. On week 1 you train with a certain amount of reps and a certain amount of weight. The week afterwards you perform with more reps or weight, you get stronger, and so you do over the next weeks, months and years, essentially, right? There will be some weeks of a deload in which you will reduce fatigue, but in general, you want to get progressively stronger throughout the weeks. That's how you build muscle, basically. If you cannot apply it to an exercise, you should not do it, because it is that important, and it is shared with intensity. For example, That's how you actually progressively get stronger and you actually force adaptation. You go and you train intensely, because without intensity you will either no, you will just stay in the same weights, because without increasing intensity, you will not increase weight. With enough time, your body will not adapt to your level of progression, and because of that, you will get a failure. And failure is intensity. It is the highest degree of intensity outside of like the special methods like superset, drop sets, right? But in general, as long as you will try to apply the progressive overload principles to your training, you will get to a higher intensity, and with enough time you will train very intensely. That's why beginners don't need to train very intensely, because they are just beginners, they learn technique, but with enough time they will need to train intensely. That's one reason, right? Not the major one. And then there is progressive overload. An example for a bad exercise for progressive overload is bicycle crunches. Right, you cannot really progressively get stronger in this exercise. It is very hard and awkward and not good. You won't be able to build a lot of muscle in this exercise unless you are already very weak. And then you will get pretty strong, decently strong. You will build some muscle through the progressive overload principle, but you will stagnate very fast because you won't be able to go past the 60, 70, 80 reps point and still reliably build muscle, because it is very hard. Cardio will be a limiting factor, and the burn will be insane, and you won't be able to push yourself to a failure. And increasing the amount of weight you pull when you do this exercise is just not easy at all, right? It might be possible, but it's just too complicated and not fun. And then another example for good exercise this time is the bench press. You can increase the weight in bench press very easily, right? Just add more weight to the bar. You will lift more weight. And if you push yourself to failure, close to it, and progressively get stronger in it, you will build a lot of muscle, and this exercise absolutely allows it. That's why it is such a good exercise, the bench press. And then there is the fourth thing, and it is the movement pattern of it. It is pretty much a fundamental thing, so I won't waste too much of your time on it, but basically each muscle has a certain movement pattern. Some muscles perform a few movements, let's say the big head of the tricep. It helps in performing shoulder extension and in performing elbow extension. Right, it performs a few movements, this head of the triceps. And most muscles perform roughly 1 to 2 movements. If this exercise does not go through the movement pattern of the desire to train muscle, you should not really do it, because it doesn't target it. And then there are the only exercises that you should do. The first type of exercise. So these are just types of exercise. I won't go into specific exercises in this video, just because there are a lot of exercises that you can do that will be amazing. For example, this exercise, barbell row, it is an amazing exercise and I will absolutely suggest you to do it. But kettlebell rows variations are also amazing, right? And this exercise too has some other variations, some other ways of performing. You can take bench, you can use a bench and support your chest. You can do there are a lot of ways in which you can perform an exercise, and there are a lot of exercises you can perform in general that will be effective. The first type of exercises are exercises that perform an horizontal pull, because this is how we train most of your back. This is just pretty fundamental. If you want to train your back, you should perform an horizontal pull and a vertical pull. Vertical pull is not necessary, but it makes a pretty good impact because it trains your lats effectively, and it is amazing. If you want to have for the lat spread to have very big lats, you should do it. And then there is a chest press. If you want to go with your chest, you should perform a chest press, right? Any kind of exercise that targets the chest. It's pretty simple. A chest press is great. Also, you can do, if you want to just target the chest and not target any other muscle, like when you perform chest press, you also target the triceps and the front delts, you can do an exercise like chest flies. This will target most of the chest and some of the front delts, but it will put a lot more emphasis on the chest. And then there are the next types of exercises. For shoulders, there are 2 major exercises that you should do, even 3, but 2. Shoulder press. This is not an essential because you also train your front delts. This exercise mainly trains the front delts, and you also train the front delts when you perform chest press. But lateral raises and face pulls, an exercise like this, the movements of horizontal abduction and extension of the shoulder are also amazing because they train the rear delts, which a lot of people overlook. But in general, you want to train all of the 3 heads of your shoulders because they are just a good muscle group to train. They give the aesthetic look, and in general we want to be aesthetic, and a massive part of aesthetics is proportions. And then there are triceps and biceps. To train the biceps, you should perform an elbow flexion. To train the triceps, you should perform an elbow extension to extend the elbow. You should perform one movement at least for these two muscles because you want them to go bigger. The triceps also work when performing chest press because there is a certain degree of elbow extension, but in general targeting them is also good. It is amazing. It will cause you to build more muscle in them, right? And then there are the legs, squats, deadlifts, every other machine that you can do for the legs is amazing. Just here's the thing. You should perform between 10 to 20 sets per muscle per week. This is like the general recommendation, and it is sweet and it worked for me, and I think it worked for a lot of people. But here's the thing. You should also train most muscles because having a proportional physique is aesthetic. So in some way, you should find the sweet spot in which you target all of the muscles basically that you try and grow, and you perform between 10 to 20 sets per week. If you don't have a lot of time throughout your weeks, you should perform less set per week, but still train most muscles, if not all muscles that you can. And on the other side, if you have a lot of time, just make sure you target everything, you train everything, and that you don't neglect any muscle, because when neglecting a muscle, I've neglected a few muscles, I think, like the abs. Training abs is amazing. If you want to, you can do it. But in general, you don't really want to neglect any muscle group. Why? Because a massive aspect of aesthetics is proportions. If you're proportional, that's amazing. And if you're not proportional, that's worse. So if you neglect a muscle, you become less proportional, and that's not good. And that's essentially it. If you enjoyed this video, you can like and subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.